Hey, what's going on, patriots and patriots and all the rest of you bastards out there? Redneck coming to you. Trying to make this one short. Well, I say that a lot, but I'm very rarely successful. Um, I had a fellow decide to get in on the whole citizen versus civilian mantra. I believe his name is YouViewer. And he posed a question I never thought about. Never pondered. Until probably about 3 minutes ago, whenever he posed the question in the video. Now, something I've never thought about, and I'll be processing that while I kind of speak on this other stuff real quick. I will agree with you that the citizen civilian thing it is propaganda. I see it as a wedge as part of the wedge that's been drove between the public and the servants, the citizens and the servants, the citizenry and the public servants. There has definitely been a wedge drove there between us, trying to separate us, try to get us, part of trying to get us at each other's throats and mistrust and things like that. Part of, the peace officers looking at all the citizens and all scumbags and hell, they probably did something wrong anyway, so we'll go ahead and, they probably deserve what we're fixing to do to them when they're falsifying stuff. And I'm not saying they're all like that. I met a lot of really good guys, and I met a lot of really big douchebags. So it's not fair for me to paint with that broad of a brush. It's just, and this is part of the propaganda too. Is all the bad stuff that we see happening. They have no problems at all, showing us brutality, police brutality and things of that nature, but very rarely do we ever get to see in the news the guy that actually still goes out and helps the public. We don't really see a whole lot of that. We mainly get fed with the brutality part of it, and that's part of the propaganda too. So, even though I'm conscious and aware of it, I still, sometimes when I see instances of that, sometimes I still play right on into it and have those feelings that they're trying to incite. Now, did this all start, was this all premeditated? Was this a program that was started with this intention, or did it just morph into it? I don't know. Like I said, like you said, I'll probably never meet the guy that wrote the book and started using the term civilian. I just look at it this way: that whether it was intentional or whether it's just morphed into this, that the public servants, the way they're trained these days is, well, they're the authorities, and they assert that authority onto the public, onto the civilians. And they're no longer trained that they are the public servants, the servants of the citizenry. They're trained that they are to assert their authority over their subjects, the civilians. And I'll put it to you like this: I'm not their subject. The only person, it's not even a person. The only thing I consider myself subject to is the authority of God, Jesus Christ. Yeah, He's my King. I will gladly be considered His servant. Matter of fact, I really look forward to the day I can be as good a friend to Him as He's been to me. Because Gotta tell you, I don't deserve it. And that's about the only subject I will consider myself to be. Now, you brought on the idea. I've been kind of mulling this over while I've been talking. You brought on you posed the idea of coming up with some new terminology. Something besides veteran or prior service. Now, a lot of guys I know have no problem calling themselves vets or being called vets. Whether it's the, I know a couple of guys that were special operators. I know a couple of guys that were rangers. Know some Marines. I know a lot of guys that was in the service, in the military, and they have no problems calling themselves vets. And I think prior service is more of internal terminology when it comes to that. And the whole concept of trying to think up of a new word, I'm not going to answer this probably in the way that you would like me to, because I'm not even going to comment on that. And I'll tell you why. It's not fair for me to even enter into a conversation talking about that. How to distinguish the guys trying to come up with new terminology for the guys that don't like prior service, and not necessarily fair to call themselves a vet, because they wasn't in the, they was never in a conflict zone. I did enlist, but I was never deployed overseas. I never had to go deal with being shot at. Never had to deal with suppressive fire. I never had to make any decisions on a battlefield. That's something I've never had to deal with. So that's not fair for me to even begin to speculate or stipulate or even enter into a conversation regarding that. I don't think that'd be, like I said, that's not fair for me to even comment on. Hell, the Iraqis and the Afghanis, unless I'm seriously mistaken, I don't necessarily think they had any aerial assets that 14 series MOS guy would have to go in there and deal with. I didn't have an 11 series. I wasn't in logistics. I wasn't, never had to deal with, any of that. And when I went down to enlist, I've always wanted to be a pilot. I didn't give a damn if it was fixed wing or rotary wing. I didn't give a hell. I just wanted to fly. I wanted to get high. And had astigmatism kind of disqualified me from doing that. So I said, fuck it. I'll shoot them other poor dumb bastards down. So, there you go. So, like I said, that's not fair. That's not fair for me to even comment on that. That would be better directed at guys that was actually over there. If you were one of those guys, why don't you chime in on that? How about some of the other guys that's been over there involved in things like that, involved in conflict? Why don't you guys chime in on it? What do you think about veteran or prior service? Do you think there should be new terminology to describe, or give distinction? I don't know. I know when people, whether it's with the Oath Keepers and, people coming up, thank you for your service, or, even here on YouTube, I've had guys, guys and gals comment, thank you for your service, and I tell them, don't thank me. I didn't earn it. I'm not a valor thief. I don't claim it. So, maybe you should ask the other guys. I'm not qualified. And I'll leave it at that. Y'all have a good one.